Hi there, I'm Becky from Nomadic Knits, and today we are going to be exploring another stitch that might be new to you for the 12 Days of Knitmas Mystery Knit Along. Today we're talking about the dip stitch, which is very simple and creates a really fun effect. I hope that you enjoy it. So the way that this works is you are creating these strands. You can see that I already did a few rounds of our pattern where you are creating these strands in front of your work. And you do that simply by slipping stitches with your yarn held to the front. So when you look at your chart for today, you'll see that we have the symbol, and in your key, it stands for slip purlwise with yarn in front. So we have alternating sections of these slip stitches with rounds of knitting. So we'll have 3 total rounds of these slip stitches with your yarn held in front before we change color and then do a dip stitch. So the dip stitch is, and you'll see that in your chart as well, and it is listed as knit while catching loose strands, which is going to make a lot more sense once we have gotten a little bit further into this tutorial. But this is your dip stitch right here, and it happens in the next color, which creates a really fun contrast. So because I've already knit these first 4 rounds of this chart, I'm going to finish up with this last round right here before moving on to round 6, just to give you an idea of how this works. So the chart calls for us to knit 5 and then slip 5 purlwise with your yarn held to the front. So I'm going to go ahead and knit 5. And move my yarn to the front and simply slip these stitches. And as I slip those, we've already done some color work. So you're familiar with the concept of making sure that you are not pulling any loose yarn so tightly that it scrunches up your stitches. We don't want to crush these stitches that are in the middle here. We want them to lay flat. So you can see that the stitches below are all laying flat and that I've left enough slack in this yarn that is being held to the front so that it doesn't pull on them. So I'm just going to nicely lay that across the front of those stitches there. And then the chart calls for us to knit 5 more stitches. Now, obviously this swatch is flat, not in the round, and it doesn't correspond to the same amount of stitches. So you can disregard this end part here. I mainly just want to show you how these stitches that might be new to you function. So you can see now that we have very clearly these 3 threads of yarn here that are sitting in front of your work. So the next round calls for us to switch our colors. So I'm going to grab a different color here so that you can see the contrast. And asks us to knit 7. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now we've knit 7, and you can see that we're at the stitch that sits right in the middle of these loose strands here. So what we're going to do is take our right needle and scoop up those strands just like that. Insert your needle through the next stitch on your left-hand needle. You are going to knit through that stitch. But the way I like to do it is before I drop that stitch off, I like to pull that all the way back down underneath. And then I drop that stitch off the needle. And then you carry on knitting. So let's see what we have now. There you go. You've created a cute little bow for day 6 of your Knitmas project. You can see that I didn't pull really tight when I did this. You want to snug it up because you do want those loose threads to come up and form the shape, and you don't want them to get too floppy. But as long as you've taken care for how they laid across your stitches when you first did your slip stitches with your yarn held in front, it will look fantastic. So it's simply going underneath these loose strands first, knitting the next stitch and pulling it back up through those as you slide that stitch off the left-hand needle. I hope that helps. Enjoy day 6. Merry Knitmas.